Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that no one speaks your language anymore, not your family, your friends, or anyone in the world. Everything you've ever known, your stories, traditions, and even jokes, suddenly becomes meaningless. Now, picture this happening not to one person, but to an entire culture. This is happening right now. Every 2 weeks, somewhere in the world, another language vanishes forever. It's not just words disappearing, it's histories, songs, recipes, ways of thinking, gone. In a world that's more connected than ever, why are we losing something so fundamental to who we are? And what happens when these languages are gone for good? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this matters far more than you might think, and what we might lose if we don't act soon. Language is more than just a way to communicate. It's a living, breathing record of human experience. Every word holds layers of meaning, shaped by the land, the culture, and the history of the people who speak it. Take the Yupik people of Alaska, for example. Their language has over 100 words for sea ice. Why? Because their survival depends on understanding the subtle differences in ice conditions. To them, sea ice isn't just ice, it's a matter of life and death. Or consider the Xhosa language of South Africa with its iconic clicks. These sounds don't just make Xhosa unique, they carry cultural pride, identity, and thousands of years of tradition. But here's the problem: many of these languages, and the cultures tied to them, are vanishing at an alarming rate. Right now, there are about 7,000 languages spoken worldwide. But by the end of the century, nearly half of them could be gone. That's over 3,000 unique ways of seeing the world wiped out in just a few generations. Why is this happening? What's pushing these languages to extinction? The main culprits are globalization, urbanization, and the dominance of major world languages like English, Spanish, and Mandarin. Imagine you live in a small village where everyone speaks a local language. But when your kids go to school, they're taught in the country's official language. When you watch TV, it's in English. If you want a good job, you have to speak the language of the global economy. Over time, your kids stop using the local language. They might even feel embarrassed by it. This is happening on a massive scale. Parents, wanting the best for their children, encourage them to learn the dominant language instead of their native one. And as the older generations pass away, so does the language. Technology plays a role too. Most of the internet, for example, is dominated by a handful of languages. If a language isn't online, it can feel invisible to younger speakers. Then there's colonization. In many places, colonizers actively suppressed indigenous languages, banning them in schools and punishing people for speaking them. The effects of this are still felt today. Let's dig deeper into what's really lost when a language disappears. First, consider knowledge. Many indigenous languages carry unique ecological wisdom. For example, the Cayupa people of the Amazon have words for over 200 medicinal plants. This knowledge, passed down orally for generations, could hold the key to curing diseases. But if a language disappears, that knowledge often goes with it. Languages also shape how we see the world. The Pirahã people of Brazil, for instance, have no fixed words for numbers. Their language reflects their culture's emphasis on the present moment rather than abstract quantities. Losing their language doesn't just mean losing words, it means losing an entirely different perspective on life. And then there's art. Songs, poems, and stories often rely on the unique sounds and structures of a language. Translations can never fully capture the beauty and nuance of the original. When a language dies, its art becomes static, like a fossil in a museum. But it's not all bad news. Around the world, people are fighting back. From language immersion schools to apps like Duolingo offering lessons in endangered languages, communities are finding creative ways to keep their languages alive. Take Maori in New Zealand. For decades, the language was in decline, but today it's experiencing a revival thanks to government support, media representation, and grassroots efforts. Here's the heart of it: when we lose a language, we lose a piece of ourselves. Language is humanity's greatest invention, and every one of them represents a unique solution to the challenge of being human. But here's the good news: saving languages isn't just possible, it's happening. Linguists are racing to document endangered languages. Communities are reclaiming their linguistic heritage. And you can help too, simply by valuing and respecting the diversity of human expression. Languages are more than just words, they're windows into the human soul. When we lose a language, we lose a part of our shared heritage. But it doesn't have to be this way. By supporting language preservation efforts and celebrating linguistic diversity, we can ensure that these voices continue to speak for generations to come.